Today on the Global Trials Accelerators podcast, we're joined by David Kraemer, founder and managing member of 102 Capital Partners. Am I pronouncing the name of the company correctly?
No, that's correct. That's correct.
Okay. David helps high growth biotech, medtech, and digital health teams secure smart capital from family offices, VCs, endowments, and corporates across North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. With deep experience in capital formation and diligence, he's here to unpack what it takes to fund first in human studies in 2025. So, David, welcome to the show.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Absolutely.
Fantastic, David. So, let's get started with your personal and professional journey. Tell us about you. Tell us about how you got to where you are today, David.
Sure. Yeah. Well, as I mentioned in my email, like I'm a little bit unorthodox, right, on some of this. But I started on the investment side years ago with Merrill Lynch in New York City. It was more private wealth, also business financing. Then I also worked with the placement agent group that dealt a lot with raising capital for venture capital and private equity funds. So that kind of spurred my interest to get more kind of in that private market space, earlier stage. From there, I went to Wilshire Consulting, which was only institutional. I was vice president of business development. I worked a lot with other teams throughout the country in different parts of the world. But there, we were a true fiduciary working with like multi-billion-dollar plans, so state pension plans, endowments, corporations, and also Wilshire is one of the top. It still is one of the top institutional investment firms, but they got acquired a couple of years ago. And then from there, I don't know. I just had this idea that I know a lot of these what I call smart capital sources, and I'd like to always be kind of a student, right? Keep learning. At first, I used to be more of a generalist, but I said, why don't I start a company where I can marry what I call like smart capital, which is some
Mm,
of the parts that you just mentioned in the intro,
yeah.
and then find really, really compelling deals or funds or companies, due diligence on them, and then try to help them get from point A to point B. So it's a very long and arduous process, but if you can help those entities get across, um, and then also it's a group effort. I think
Hmm.
people can have a bigger impact. I think my affinity too for kind of the life sciences was around earlier. I just wasn't so much aware of it. You know, I think at this point in my career, I want to have again something that I could have a bigger impact,
Yeah,
um, versus just having a transaction. So
sure.
even though I
Yeah.
have 10 capital partners, I'm still possibly pivoting on a couple interesting areas, which may be forthcoming, but we'll see. So,
And where do you live, David?
um, I was in New York City for 12 years, but I circled back. I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So I born and raised here.
Okay.
I have,
That's your
yeah, I
hometown.
have two, correct. So I have two children, 10th and 11th grade. My son is an athlete as well. He's going to be going to Villanova next year uh,
Nice.
for football. Yeah, it's a nice school. And then my daughter, she's also athletic, but I think she'll be going Division 1 somewhere. We're not sure yet. Most likely track and field.
Okay.
So,
Good, good,
yeah.
good. All right. So, David, let's talk about trends. What do you see happening in the industry, the life science industry, and what political, economic, or industry trends you see that are affecting what we do in the industry?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that's changed, especially since I've started to focus on this, has been China, right? I mean,
China. Hmm.
it used to be, yeah, it used to just be an area for manufacturing, right? But now, I mean, so many entities are now trying to out license, right? Some of their new indications and so forth. Also, at the speed and brevity, I think that things can get through IND and so forth. Their equivalent is a lot faster than what we have here.
Oh.
And that's kind of part of a bigger global trend where 50% of things that get approved or cleared that come out of FDA, um, are within here, like within the United States. But I mean, it's a global market now, right? As you know
Yeah.
already. So
Yeah.
even look at like countries like Australia. right? Where now they
Hmm.
have that new tax rebate. Um, you can go to the ethics committee and get an update whether you
Yeah,
can proceed or not, 4 to 6 weeks versus 6 to 9.
yeah,
So I think that, and that ties back in with the investors and the capital, which is really the lifeblood of all these industries. How can you optimize that? Not run afoul of any regulatory issues, and still get the requisite information and you know the clinical endpoints um, in a good way, but do that the most efficiently. I think what happened too is pre-pandemic, and of course during the pandemic, right? We had kind of a huge upsurge again, especially with mRNA. Um, but I think too many entities came out, right? How many oncology indication companies can you have,
yeah,
right? I mean, it's
yeah, yeah,
kind of a little frothy. So I think that's one trend is definitely China. I think more globalization, even Latin America, of course, as you know,
yeah,
being able to draw upon those other regulatory agencies, and it's easier to get trials too, right? Like even like in
yeah,
Brazil,
absolutely. Yes,
I think like there's patient naive treatments where you can actually get. It's so hard to get people into trials sometimes, especially in the United States.
exactly. Yes,
So,
yeah. And diversity
so
too.
correct, right?
Yeah.
If all we're talking about is you know a European contingent or U.S., that really doesn't help the rest of the world, right? It's nice to have
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's absolutely, I think, one big trend. Um, the other one, obviously, I'm sure other people will mention it, but is AI. And I look at
Of
it,
course. Yeah.
I look at that, I think also like drug repurposing, right? I mean, instead of, again, this kind of truncates the timeline, which is what we were kind of talking about,
Hmm.
being able to use AI and machine learning to find the requisite target, compound, or combination thereof, versus having that other part that may take 1 to 3 years, I think can actually expedite things as well. Now, is it going to be better than a dedicated group of scientists and so forth? I don't know. I think eventually, but
Hmm.
I think marrying those two together is another way to really expedite things. But it has to be. I mean, AI has been around for years, right? It's gotten a lot more prevalent.
Since the 60s or
Um,
something, right?
yeah, exactly. Um, so I think that's another huge trend. Um, and it's going to be exciting to see where it goes because the cool aspect of it is, with the computing power and the way the technology and the self learning, eventually we're going to have that crossover point, right? I forget what it's called, but where, it may be completely independent. So you want to have some ethical guidelines around that, of
Yeah,
course, right?
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think I think as an enterprise, I think the United States has been a little more open to taking those risks, whereas say Europe
Oh,
has
yeah,
been a little more closer to the vest. Let's look and see. But I think they're
yeah.
realizing as a competitive advantage, you need to also open the kimono a little bit, right, and take some chances, but
Yeah,
do it properly. Then of
yeah,
course
yeah.
China. I mean, they've kind of swung the pendulum a little bit differently, right? Back when we had the CRISPR babies, right, in 2018,
Hmm.
which was very, very interesting. But again, I think that sent shockwaves throughout the world. Like, we're kind of playing God here a little bit, right? So, how do we use that?
Yeah,
How do we use that um, to our benefit, but do it again ethically? And that's a slippery slope too, because if you're creating, designer babies, so to speak, now you're going to have people that can afford it, and you'll have the haves and have-nots. So I think I don't know. It's all still playing out, but I think it's a wonderful thing to have all these exciting times and technologies at our disposal. Just how do we do it the most efficiently, properly, and then of course, investors want to see can we get a commensurate return, but also still have an impact.
absolutely.
So
Agree, 100%. All right,
yeah,
David. So let's talk about any exciting projects you're working on right now. Can you share something
yeah.
in that regard?
I have one. I'm under NDA, but it's. I mean, this kind of goes to an area I keep learning a lot more about, but is like cardiometabolic and cardiology just in general, right? If you look at the
Okay.
comorbidity, look at comorbidities across the world. I mean, obviously cancer is huge, but I
Yeah.
mean, cardiovascular disease is still, we're still kind of like in the 1980s with that, I think, to a certain degree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so there's a company over in Europe that I've been working with a little bit, where they take CD34 stem cells after somebody's had an acute myocardial infarction, so like a severe heart attack. How do
Hmm.
you take that? It's a cell therapy, so it'd be a one-time dose. Um, but I think they're between phase 1 and 2B right now. Um, but people that have gotten their um, their uh, their therapeutic benefit, what they basically do is they take those cells out, they reprogram it the way they're doing it, and then they put it back into the fibrotic area.
Wow.
And if you have, yeah, if you have a severe heart attack, that's never going to, the area usually does not grow back, right? The blood flow doesn't come there.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, but the caveat is there's a short window. I think it's between 3 to 4 weeks after the actual event until like 4 to 6 thereafter. So for people that have had that and still want to have a good quality of life, hopefully, um, what the studies have showed so far is that they inject that back in there. It's minimally invasive, believe it or not, and then they can kind of go about their life. So again, it's not
Wow.
approved yet, but
Amazing.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So um, another area too, I think is I may be working with a company is the circular mRNA, right? Because as
Okay.
you know, with mRNA, you have those two strands, and a lot of times those things can get broken, and not
Hmm.
be as effective. I think with circular mRNA, there's a company called Orna Therapeutics. I'm not working with them, but they it's a great way to get through the liver and get to the other parts of the body and deliver a payload, but do it effectively and not have off-target effects. And I think
Hmm.
that's going to be just like mRNA was in 2020. I think the circular mRNA will be something that's, you know, one of the big achievements of this decade. I think. Um,
Hmm.
so
Interesting.
um, yeah, so I think that um, in other areas, that may be a combination product, right? Maybe you have
Okay.
a device that can also deliver a therapeutic benefit. Those are in areas that I may be working on something too. Um,
Hmm.
but as a small entity, you can only work on so much.
Of course. Yeah. 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 But it's amazing. I kind of identify with what you're saying because I am the CEO of a CRO that specializes in first in human clinical trials. So I am always at the forefront of what's going on. Every day I get an email with some new technology. Many of them sound like science fiction. So yeah, I love seeing how fast things are moving and learning about how life science progresses so much and science in general progresses so much that we're going to be living until, I don't know, 120 years old or something like that because there's always something to treat all these diseases of aging that we have. So,
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, that kind of speaks to the one of those other sectors too that's adjacent is the longevity, right?
oh, yeah.
Trying
Hmm,
people. I don't
yeah.
know so much about that, but I think psychedelics too are
Oh,
kind of
yes.
coming up.
Big area of
That
development. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
again, not kind of in an abusive way, but I mean something to.
Yeah. Hmm.
There's a lot of strong evidence. Plus, the cost of doing it isn't that expensive, right? I mean, it's kind of like Mother Nature.
Exactly.
A lot of right. So I think
Yeah.
those are
Yeah.
very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, I was going to say that I think John Hopkins and some top universities in the US and hospitals are involved in psychedelic research because it's a hot area of research to treat
Right.
anxiety, depression, and all that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. well, especially too when we had the pandemic. I mean, so many people were isolated. I think it just
Yes.
exasperated what
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
had,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
speaking of Hopkins too, I think it was in my profile. I actually went
Yes,
back
I saw
and
that.
near,
Yeah.
yeah. So I've done a real pivot, but I'm nearing completion of a master's in biotechnology, enterprise, and
Fantastic.
entrepreneurship. Yeah. So I'm probably the oldest person in the cohort, but it's okay. So, but but I have a lot, I have the business experience and so forth. But it's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I love it. I think it's the professors are, it's a wonderful organization,
Yeah.
institution, and hopefully I should have that done by the end of this year. So
Excellent. Congratulations. I was fortunate enough, David, to work for John Hopkins for a year and a half. And yeah, it was quite an experience in Baltimore, actually. So I loved it.
yeah, for me, it's all online and remote.
Online,
So
that's what I imagine. Yeah.
yeah. So I've been taking like 2 classes per term, so it's more doable. But
Okay.
yeah,
All right. So, David, let's talk about the heart of the matter here. So let's talk about the state of the market. Let's, please paint the 2025 landscape. Who is still writing checks for first in human trials? Family offices, specialists, VCs, strategics, I'm sorry. And what's changed since the risk tolerance of 2022, 2023? Why do we have this massive 180-degree shift in the investment sentiment of these investors? So, what can you tell us about it?
yeah. Well, again, with the pandemic, I mean, that spurred a lot more focused in life sciences in general. And again, I think it got kind of frothy, and I think a lot of people were quote writing checks that really didn't have the knowledge. Right? It was more like, hey,
Hmm.
this is a very this is a nice shiny object. Right? I think I don't want
It's
to
like
have fear.
AI now.
Right. Right. I don't want to have fear or FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think a lot of people got burned, but I think the ones that are astute, that are not just generalists, have been there. Because I think whenever you have, good science, good technology, good management, and a clear pathway on how to get to somewhere, whether it's M&A, an IPO, et cetera, um, people will be forthcoming. So yeah, I think the check sizes this year have been smaller, but I've looked at some of the M&A data as well, and it's in the aggregate, we're actually doing pretty well, right? Because we've
Hmm.
been in, yeah, I mean, biotech in general has been kind of in a winter, right, for the last couple of
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
um, and valuations have come back down to market or to earth, so to speak, right?
Okay.
So I think that's a case. Um, Definitely corporates, and then on top of that, as you know, we have a huge patent cliff coming, right? So by 2030. So a lot of big pharma is out there, again, trying to acquire things or license things. Um, so I think that's going to be a good catalyst, especially for, not shiny objects, but things that actually have tangible, real benefit that have a large, tangible market that people can capitalize on. So, yeah, so family offices are always going to be there. I think they still are. I think the ones that are more specialized um, can weather the downsides because they're really more permanent patient capital, right? Whereas a VC fund in general, right, they have a certain timeline typically, right? They want to get a commensurate return, get it back to the limited
Sure.
partners,
Yeah.
and then redeploy.
Yeah.
Um, so I think I think high net worth investors that are astute, for the very early part, the pre-seed type money, I think is still there.
Hmm.
Um, Corporate venture capital as well, as I mentioned. Um, Even some large, sovereign type entities. But I mean, the check sizes they have to write are enormous,
Exactly.
right? So that
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
would they would be falling on like Series C and so forth.
Hmm.
But no, I think the pendulum has swung. Fingers crossed. And the interesting thing, like I mentioned too, is I think we just having this convergence of all these other areas, right? Life sciences, med tech, AI,
Hmm.
robotics, I mean, I know it's kind of frothy and cool to talk about, but I really think it's going to be a game changer over the next 5 to 10 years. Um, and people don't, they don't want to miss out on that, but you don't want to bet the farm either, right? You want to kind of do it judiciously, and that comes back to, I think, let's look at like your typical family office. I mean, when I say family office, I'm thinking like 500 million and up
Okay.
in net worth. A lot of them usually they're entrepreneurs. They had a large wealth creation, worked very, very hard. Um, but, they might have a subject matter area that's obviously not in this space. So they're looking to diversify. So
Hmm.
taking a more calculated approach, right? Building that out, hiring the right people, or getting the right advisors, I think is always a good way to do it, right? You don't have to try to win a home run on day one, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely going to be there. And we have a different administration now too that seems to be more pro business. But again, I don't, who knows
Yes.
what's going to happen? But
Exactly. It's very
um,
unpredictable.
right,
Yeah.
I mean, the early part of the year, right? NIH was getting
Yeah.
guillotined everywhere, and now it seems
The
to be coming back a
FDA.
little. Right. So it's very interesting times. But yeah, no, I think the pendulum has swung. I think there's good opportunities for the right people, the
Okay.
right leadership, and the right benefits. Whether it's a device or a therapeutic.
I was going to ask you that. It was going to be my next question about the ideal investable FIH first in human package. So when you
Mhm.
evaluate an first in human ready company, what must be true? Regulatory clarity, preclinical robustness, KOL backing, payer relevant
Oh,
endpoints, or early strategic interest, from larger companies, potential acquirers. So what do you think is the ideal mix so that the company gets really, really sexy in front of potential investors?
yeah. Well, again, I think if you have the science, you have the right people, particularly if you have a founder that has been there, done that before, right?
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
kind of what
Yeah.
do they have a bench? I think that provides more credibility, right? Now,
Yeah.
the other side of that is, what if you have somebody that is a first-time founder, but they have something that's really novel and really impactful?
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
see, I think what happens if you have somebody that has more of an affinity for that area, they may be more lenient on that. I think initially, um, but yeah, you said it. I mean, you want to have everything mapped out like you're going to take it to market from the get
Yeah.
go, right? And
Okay.
most of these entities, as you know, don't do that. They get acquired because how are you going to build out a sales force? When you're just starting from ground zero, you're not.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and you mentioned earlier in our discussion CRO, right? So do you have somebody that understands your space that you can rely
Hmm.
upon, leverage yourself, and branch out that way? Um, it's very very few entities have access to all that from day one, right?
That's
So
true. That's a good point. Mm.
yeah, so I think having things again more calculated, thoughtful approach, I think wins or gives you a better chance of winning
Mm.
versus hey, I have this awesome indication I'm trying to focus on and try to hit everything in one day. It just doesn't work. Um, so I think that's you know I think again I think you will be found if you have great technology, great management team, a good indication in a large market to address. Um, and if we go back to what we said earlier, kind of utilizing the global approach to expedite and be more cost effective,
Absolutely.
and those,
Yeah.
those initial stages really help. Um,
Mm.
so, but again, every family office too. Again, I'm not harping on them total, but they're all different, right? Just like every person you meet is different, right? They don't have any
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
any
Yeah. Yeah.
right. So, but yeah, it's definitely exciting times, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Um, things just keep getting more and more available, more transparent, and you know. But I also say that with an asterisk too, because it still is kind of frothy in certain ways, right?
Mm,
It's kind of slowing
mm.
down, but it's getting better.
Okay, I usually hear that interest rates affect the investment dynamics. So, what do you think is going to happen? Or what's happening there? Is it true or not? Are we going to see lower interest rates coming up? What's your take on this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you know, they raised rates substantially some years back, but they've been cutting. I still think we have. And again, I don't want to be a pontificator, but I think there's still another 25 or so basis points that'll be cut here in the U.S. And
Okay.
that increases the cost, lowers the cost of capital, which is great,
Yeah,
right? So,
exactly. That's my point. Yeah.
right.
Mm,
So yeah, no, that's definitely a tailwind for this industry and just innovation in general, right?
mm,
Um, I know at the beginning of this year, people were claiming that there probably won't be any cuts. We've already had some, so um, I don't know what goes on exactly at the Fed behind the scenes, but I do think um, that it definitely is going to happen. And it's going to be a nice tailwind. And then also, if you look across the pond, right in Europe, I mean, they need some type of catalyst as well. I mean, their economy is not doing that well,
yeah,
generally speaking. So I think they'll be cutting potentially some more as well. Um, but yeah, if you can get a lower cost of capital, people want to take that and try to innovate with
sure.
it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so hopefully that adds a nice little boon for us for this year and part of next year.
Good. So, David, before we wrap up the conversation, the one last question that I have is about another trend that I see happening, which is precision medicine. I think I saw that in your profile. I think it's related to the master's degree that you are doing now. Radiopharmaceuticals and theranostics. That's a very hot area right now. I read, and I'm actually involved in that space as we speak. And it's a new space for me, for my company. And what do you have to say about that? I mean, I'm sorry, before you answer, I just came back from the Astro conference in San Francisco, the American Society of Radiation Oncology. And I would say that 70% of the conversation was about radiopharmaceuticals and theranostics. So, what's your take on that space?
No, it's definitely an interesting area. I think it's got a lot of great benefit. It's just a matter of having the right setup, right? Is it available to everybody because of what you need to have behind that type of therapeutic benefit, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you're just administering something. Um, but precision medicine, that's definitely a huge uh, theme that I think is not
Mm,
going to go away. I think initially people tried to force it, but now again, going back to this confluence of all this technology and the global, I guess, intellectual capital we can draw upon, I think that is the future or part of the future of healthcare, right?
mm,
Being able to assess somebody on an initial visit and see what is wrong, or even flipping the channel, it could be the other way, trying to optimize, right? Not just reactionary, but also can you optimize, through precision medicine, somebody's lifestyle, their longevity. Um, I don't know as much about it. I mean, I'm getting more up to speed on it, but I definitely think that is a more boutique and individualistic way to help people, right? Because I mean, if you look at our healthcare system in general, it's so reactionary. It's so,
yeah.
especially when you get into like, a BMI chart, just for an example, right? Like,
Hmm.
how do you, it's so outdated. Like maybe somebody's got some heavy
Yeah,
weight, but they're actually not,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, I agree.
So, so no, that would have been great to be at that conference. I'm sure there's some. I'll have to
Yeah,
look at some commentary, but no, I think
yeah,
precision medicine is huge, and yeah, the more bespoke that you can get for the patient, I think
exactly.
the better off it'll be.
Hmm. Yes. All
If that
right,
answers your question.
David.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Huge thanks to David Kraemer of 102 Capital Partners for a masterclass on funding first in humans in today's market. If this episode helped you, share it with your network, with a founder or investors, and subscribe to the Global Trial Accelerators podcast for more conversations on accelerating early phase trials worldwide. Thank you so much, David, for being in the show.
Great. Thank you.